The talk of Sioux Falls, 1140 KSOO.
316 here on the Talk of Sioux Falls, 1140 KSOO. My P&L statement on the park board controversy is coming up here in a moment. But first I want to tell you about the Siouxland Library's book walk. That's Wednesday, the book walk, which kind of dovetails us into our main guest later today, J. Ryan Strattle, who's a novelist. But that book walk is 9 to 11 at the Downtown River Greenway Amphitheater. Take a walk and read pages of 2 children's books along the bike path between the Downtown Greenway and Falls Park. Visit the bookmobile from 9 to 11, and Phil Baker will perform at 10. Lots of great kids' activities for you folks down there on Wednesday morning, July 19. As I said, we've got J. Ryan Strattle coming up in the second hour, as well as the Boone Man and Kelsey Passolt. But you'll want to stay with us. So I've been watching this park board realignment debate, and it's kind of fascinating. But loyal listeners of this program may want to brace themselves because Theresa Stehly is right. Just let that hang there.
What?
Just let that hang there for a moment, people. Theresa Stehly is right. Theresa, of course, is the at-large member on the Sioux Falls City Council. We know her as the protege of former Councilor Kermit Staggers and guest on this program. Probably will be again. She's the current member of the council who is most likely to ask questions and make proposals about things that many of us see as, just causing trouble. She's the member of the council most likely to ask multiple questions about seemingly benign projects or issues, and she's the councilor who is most likely to get under the mayor's skin, Mayor Mike Huther. I don't think that's any secret. Which is why, in many cases, I may not always agree with her, but I like her. I like Theresa because she pays attention and she works hard. Love her or hate her, and there's plenty that do hate her. Hate's a strong word, but in a sort of public sense. You can't say that she doesn't work hard. I believe she learned that lesson from Kermit, who for many years bore that same torch and that same level of agitation for some corners of the city, in some corners of the city. And before you get too antsy, okay, this is no homage to lean government or backyard, not in my backyard, complaining that sometimes we hear from Theresa, and we did hear from Kermit. Plainly put, Theresa can be a pain, but I still like her. And this time, I agree. The Parks Board needs to be changed to represent more geographic corners of the city. As Theresa says, it's not that the current members are doing a bad job. They're not doing anything wrong. Under the proposal that she has forwarded and will be discussed, I believe, later this month, all the current members would serve out those 10-year terms that they were appointed to by the mayor. But I think she has a point going forward. It's too easy for members of the park board, one of the most prestigious of the city's numerous advisory boards, and there are a lot of them, to be clustered into a couple areas of the city, which is kind of the way it has happened now. This city has gotten too big geographically for any one person to be able to understand the wants and needs of all corners. Theresa wants to have members appointed out of essentially the council districts. Some large. That makes sense to me. I don't see what the problem with that would be. Mayor Huther and some councilors say it's too hard to get people who want to serve on the boards, and this would make it more difficult. That may be true in some instances, but I don't think the Parks Board is one of those instances. It is a popular and prestigious board. Some of the councilors have served on that board. Michelle Erpenbach comes to mind. This suggests that people who live in the further flung areas of town, that they aren't interested in serving somehow. We just can't get anybody from out there. I find that condescending and patriarchal. But here's my real concern. This city is already not transparent enough. It's already too full of patronage and backslapping among too few people. We see that with the mayor's secret deals over the lawsuit involved, the lawsuit that was never filed over the T. Denny Sanford Premier Center siding. It's a closed document. Too much of the city business is done behind closed doors. Parks and Recreation is a very big deal for our city. It's a big deal for the people who live here, of course, and our daily recreation and our use of green space and our love of green space. But it's a big deal for our economic development, recruitment, job force development, all of those things. Parks Board is a very big deal. It's not just where to put the teeter-totter. It's about what programs we'll offer, where we're going to put our money. How do we expand services? What activities are we interested in? What are we lacking? What's it going to take? They're hard questions, and the people who serve work really hard. And again, this has nothing to do with the people who are on the board. They've done a great job. Anybody who serves on one of those boards is giving of their time and their expertise to try and make the city better. We already know that. And I thank you all for doing that. Some of them, the Parks Board is deals with a lot of very cool things, but it's still a lot of work. There's a lot of other boards out there that aren't that much fun day to day, that deal with really hard topics that a lot of folks maybe don't have any interest in. REMSA, for instance, is the one that always comes to my mind, which is very complicated work dealing with emergency services, the ambulances. But there's a lot of, there's dozens of these boards, and I know that it's hard sometimes to get people to serve on all of them, but Parks isn't one of them. Parks is a great board. You get to talk about the fun things in our city. Who wouldn't want to do that? If you're going to get involved in city government, it is one of the great places, but you don't just walk in and say, hey, I want to be on the Parks Board. I think that you have to work your way up to it in many cases. You have to be connected. You have to get in the good graces of the mayor, whoever that mayor may be, because they are appointed by the mayor's office. It's not like first come, first serve. None of that. With the major boards, planning and zoning is another one. These folks have put in some time, and they have a knowledge base, and they have expertise, and I understand that. That's a very important thing to keep in mind. But when it comes to parks, I think geography is important. I had a history professor once who would stress over and over, geography is history, and history is geography, because so much of what happens is driven by the land and the place that you live and the distances. And this city is big. It is a large geographic piece of land. The mayor also recently vetoed the idea of videotaping the Parks Board meetings and dispersing all that on the city's website. I thought that was absurd. It's too easy for the boards to be insulated from the real world concerns of average people, particularly when you already think that they don't care enough to serve. So, just take the people you know. Everything this city does at every level possible should be as open and as transparent as possible. And that's what Mayor Huther promised us when he came to power. But that has not been the reality, not by any measure. So Theresa's right. Maybe if more people saw the board at work, more people would want to serve. Maybe. But that has to be our goal, and we can never waver from it. There are always going to be reasons to close meetings. There are always going to be reasons to not want public scrutiny. It just complicates things, makes things messier. You have to listen to people. Makes meetings longer. Makes work harder. I understand all that. I think the natural tendency is to close things down, to make them try and make them more efficient in the name of efficiency of government. But then you aren't the government of the people. And so maybe selecting members of the Parks Board from different parts of the city isn't the end of the world one way or the other. I understand that. But philosophically speaking, democratically speaking, Theresa is right. So let's open up those doors. That's my P&L statement for the day. If you agree, disagree, you can always get a hold of me at Lalley at KSOO.com, or through social media, P. Lalley Show, 1140 KSOO on Facebook. I always want to hear from folks, so get in touch. Coming up in the next half hour, we have the Boone Man, my weird friend for the day, and Kelsey Passolt from KDLT. This is the Patrick Lalley Show on 1140 KSOO.
Hi, Chad.